welcome everybody. I'm going to have to fix that because it needs to be the whole screen. But anyway, welcome to our first ever deep dive topics podcast. These are going to be held monthly. And first up tonight, we have the North American Dogman Project as our guest. We have Jody Cook, who is the founder, Jen, who is the Midwest Regional Director, Marcus Ellis, who is the Region 5 Director. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. And then Trent, who is are you Kentucky or Tennessee?
Kentucky.
I've posted that so many times that I don't remember who's who anymore. But anyway, welcome to the show, guys. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Glad to be here.
Welcome.
Judy, tell us a little bit about the North American Dogman Project, how it got started, how you became the founder, that kind of thing.
Well, I was into the cryptids and the paranormal and ufology field for about 30 years. I got into the UFO field first. I did a lot of UFO research back in the 80s, going into the 90s. And I was with a local group here in Cincinnati. And this is before cable and the internet and all that stuff. Public access TV is how everybody did a lot of stuff. And we did a show called UFO Update Live. It was a live show we did every Wednesday of the month, first Wednesday of the month. And it went about 8, maybe 10 years. And Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, and I think Pennsylvania, where you were able to watch it. And we were getting, a lot of cryptid sightings and stuff. So myself, George Clapson, decided to take the cryptid stuff. And we basically stayed with the Bigfoot stuff in Ohio. And then we kind of expanded out. And the field got to the point where it became a clique and, a buddy system and things like that. And it was always the same people speaking at the same conferences, talking about the same stuff they talked about 5 conferences back, so you weren't getting really information. And there was a new cryptid that we're talking about called Dogman. And I decided, I'm going to look into this. And about 2006, I started a North American Dogman Project. And basically, it was just me and 2 other guys. We never went online. We just did our own research and stuff. And then about 2016 is when we went actually online through Facebook, our website, everything like that. And Jen is one of the original members. She's been with us for 10 years. And it blew up. It really did. I wasn't expecting it to get to the point where it is today, to be honest with you. Right now, we're in the top 100 of the websites, which is excellent. We get, what is it, Jen, about 5,000 views a month or something like that?
Last I checked, it was over 5,000.
Yeah, views that we get. We get reports coming in. We have people asking a lot of questions and things. And, it's great. I love it. I see the organization expanding. We have 5 regions where we have researchers and we have state representatives, and like you said, it's expanding more and more.
Okay, perfect. I'll let everybody kind of talk a little bit about themselves and what they do, and then I'll come back to another question. So,
Okay.
Jen, you can go ahead.
So Jody actually promoted me. I am now the Chief Information Officer. So I take care of the website. I take care of the emails. Just anything that comes in, I divvy it out like to Marcus. He's really good about doing his stuff. And I keep contact with all the guys, all the regional directors, all the state directors. So if we get a report, say Trent gets one in Kentucky, I'll send it over to him. They interview new members, which we're looking for. I was the Midwest Regional Director for, 2-3 years?
Yeah.
At least. And when Jody promoted me, Tamala Meck took that position over. And when I moved from Indiana state director to Midwest, she took over the Indiana state. And like Jody said, I've been with him 10 years. Happy
Yeah.
anniversary, Jody.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been with him. I went to Germantown and investigated with him for the Germantown werewolf. I've went out to Defiance. We've recently had sightings here in Indiana. Last night, I found out we have more sightings. Tamala and I did a different podcast with some guys I actually used to work with, and they were talking about sightings here locally. And then, as you know, I got my ghost hunting stuff. So that's about it for me.
Okay. Marcus?
Get that thing unmuted there. Yeah, I'm Marcus Ellis. I'm from the great state of Mississippi. That's where I'm from. And I am the Region 5 director for the NADP in Jody. And that kind of puts me over 10 of the southeastern states. And basically what I do, as Jen pointed out, and what Jody does, I provide aid and assistance when I can to the guys that are underneath me, and we all work together as a team and investigate Dogman. I've been with the NADP getting close to a year and a half now, so I'm kind of a rookie, still a little wet behind the ears, but Jody and Jen are keeping me on track and keeping me in line here. But yeah, it's I originally came out of the Bigfoot world. I investigated Bigfoot sightings and report, and still do when they come my way. But of course now I get more Dogman stuff, and of course the NADP is my focus. That's my home, and that's where I focus at. But Bigfoot investigator and researcher M.K. Davis took me under his wing about 8-9 years ago, and he taught me the ins and outs and what to do, what not to do. And then I was a field investigator with MUFON for about 5 years, and my last year I worked with the Experiencer Resource Team, which was the group that was in charge of dealing with alleged alien abductees. So I mean, I've in my short handful of years doing this, I've seen a lot and experienced a lot, and I'm pretty sure with the NADP and all, it's going to be probably a lot more.
Okay. All right, yeah. Trent?
Well, if Marcus is a rookie, I guess that makes me a real greenhorn. So I'm the new guy of the team. I'm from Western Kentucky. I actually live just right outside of Land Between the Lakes, which is one of the ground zero points for Dogman research. And I had my own encounter back in the fall, and that's kind of what led me into getting into helping out with the NADP. I've got a background myself in paranormal studies. I worked with the Hopkins County Paranormal Society out of Hopkins County, Kentucky from about 2013 till around 2021. And we've done a lot of private residences. We've done a lot of pretty famous historical places also. And my background in paranormal studies, and I've had a lifelong fascination with cryptids, UFOs, all things paranormal. So that's kind of what brought me into the fold here.
Okay. So what is, for me specifically, I know what Dogman is by looking at a picture, but what is the story behind Dogman? Does each state have their own local lore? Is it one generalized story behind it?
Well, no one knows what Dogman really is. We know it's some type of a upright plaintiff that's capable of walking on two legs. We know they're different disparities of it, of Dogman, just like, canine, the canine species have different breeds. Okay. Same thing kind of with, Dogman. It's the same species, but they're different breeds of that species. Okay. You have your type 1, type 2, type 3, and you have your canine species. Those are basics. Okay. But there's probably about 10 different characteristics of Dogman, depending on the part of the world and depending on the environment. Okay. So the most noticeable Dogman sightings, okay, are the type 3s and the canine. The type 3 is basic, looks just like a typical werewolf, like your Van Helsing style werewolf or your howling werewolf, but the legs and the feet are more human. Okay. Has about 3 toes. Sometimes it has 4. The canine version is just the full canine with the canine style back legs, the canine style feet. Those are about the 2 common. Now, the type 3 is more visual in Europe than the canine species is compared to here in the United States. Now, Canada has been having a lot of their sightings of type 3 and the canine. Okay. Now, when I was doing Bigfoot research, back in the 80s and 90s, I was getting reports of Bigfoot having a snout, or Bigfoot having a high pointed ears, or Bigfoot having legs like a dog. Okay. Because you have to understand, back in the 80s and 90s, Dogman was very scarce. It was only in certain isolated areas like the Michigan Dogman, the Beast of Bray Road, the Germantown werewolf, the Shenango Valley werewolf. These are things that basically stayed within these communities, and they really never got out. So when I was going back looking at some of these reports, when I got in, more in with the Dogman stuff, I'm looking at these reports and it's like, these people are seeing Dogman. They weren't seeing a Bigfoot with a snout or a Bigfoot with pointed ears. They were actually seeing a Dogman because all they saw was a large, hairy, entity. So, and like I said, Dogman was just not something that was around, especially like here in Ohio, where I did a lot of the Bigfoot stuff. We had the Defiance, Ohio case that was in 1972, where a werewolf, Dogman, was harassing the town of Defiance for about a week. And the first night it happened, it attacked 3 workers at a railroad station. And the rumor is that Stephen King's movie Silver Bullet is based on the Defiance, Ohio case, which is really weird. Because here's the thing. I talked to the wife of the deceased chief of police at the time, and she was telling me that the community was scared, the police were scared. There was something that was killing livestock, killing cows that looked like a werewolf. Okay. So in order to calm down the community, what they did was say, okay, we got a couple reports where this thing was wearing clothes, which it wasn't. But they said that to kind of calm the community down. And it really didn't work. Okay. Because this thing's killing cattle. Okay. And then you go, okay, well, it had to be a bear that killed these cattle. Well, no, it's not. Ohio never had bear until 1980. Okay. And now we have 44 counties with black bear. Okay. So that whole idea of a black bear coming and killing all these cattle was nonsense. It's just they didn't know where to run with this. So we had isolated cases like that all across the country. But like I said, those all stay within the community. The Butter Street Monster, for example, which is the Germantown werewolf, was, when Ohio's a farming land. Okay. Most of the population is within the cities. And then you have all this farmland all across the state. Okay. So when the community of Germantown was building up, they end up going into the woods about a mile, and they built the whole street with houses on each side called Butter Street. Well, they did it center where this creature lived. They were calling it the Butter Street Monster. Okay, back in the 1970s. Now it's the Germantown Werewolf. But the thing about it, it never left that community. It stayed there. So that's why you didn't hear a lot about these creatures back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and even in the early 2000s, because it was there. It was theirs, and they kept it there because they don't want people coming in there, making things worse. But it's got to the point the sightings have just expanded outside of these communities. So now everybody is having sightings. Everybody is seeing these things, not just in rural areas. I'm talking within city limits. These things are being seen.
Oh, that's crazy. How many members do you guys currently have?
Jen?
I would say, trying to think, 5 regions, 30 to 50 throughout the U.S. And I believe we have 1 or 2 in Canada as well.
Yeah. We those are official. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to add on like members that are on your Facebook pages and things like that, then the numbers are in the 100. But they're members to the pages. Okay.
Mhm.
So what she is saying, active, proactive members is about right.
Okay. Tim?
Let me get my mute off there so I can talk to you. So you guys have my undivided attention more than what you ever know, because
Thank you.
I believe in the cryptids. I truly do. I've never had an experience with one, but damned if I'm not going to one day, because I'm surely gonna find one somewhere sometime. So I'm into like Wendigo, Skinwalker, stuff like that, but I really believe in the cryptids. So I find it interesting. All your backgrounds are UFOs. You have backgrounds of Bigfoot and everything like that. Then you come into the Dogman. What made all of you finally decide that the Dogman was the most prevalent thing that you want to look for?
Can I tackle that first?
Yeah, please.
I went to a Bigfoot conference with MK about 8-9 years ago, and it was down in South Mississippi. It was put on by a local Bigfoot group, and me and another buddy, we're sitting next to each other, listening to the presentations and stuff like this. And when it was all over with, there was a Q&A, and this lady, now mind you, just like what Jody said a little while ago, 10 years ago, Dogman was not a part of the lexicon. It wasn't a household thing like it's become. So this lady asked the presenter, the main guy, hey, what is it to this Dogman thing? We're hearing in the Bigfoot community. And this guy stood up and he did everything except slam his fists on the podium. And he said, there is no such thing as Dogman. All Dogman reports are misidentified Sasquatch. I leaned over at my buddy and I said, hey, there's something to this Dogman thing, right? And we just kind of snickered because it was just so arrogant. And all of these Bigfoot witnesses that were coming on these shows and podcasts, they knew what they were seeing. That they were seeing, like what Jody described, what you would liken to a werewolf. They weren't seeing a Bigfoot. Now there is a Bigfoot type out there. I think it's Jody and Jen can probably correct me on this. That has a snout. I think it's referred to as the Gugway. But for the most part, these people were seeing upright wolves, and the Bigfoot community at that point was just laughing them under the table. So that's one of the things that got me into it, because I'm like, if this guy is so arrogant to say that there's no such thing as that, I'm like, I'm going to start looking, and really following in behind that. So did the whole Bigfoot community in the world, for that matter.
Okay.
The BFRO is a really good organization. When it comes to Bigfoot, they're a good group of guys. But Matt Moneymaker, I know him for years, but Matt Moneymaker does not believe in Dogman, and he will not allow any of his people to even report a Dogman sighting
Okay.
when they're in the field, and that's not good. That's not good. You may not like that cryptid, and if you have people out looking, for Bigfoot, and they come across, a different cryptid, yeah, report it. You know, you don't have to put it on your database, but still report it to a group so they can go out and investigate. Now, Cliff is a different person. Cliff believes that Dogman exists. Him and I have had, numerous messages back and forth about, Dogman years ago, and he definitely believes that there's something to it. But the Bigfoot community, they're ones that just don't want.
Okay.
They don't want nothing to do with it. They don't want this new cryptid to take over Bigfoot, which is it's not going to unless something major happens. Bigfoot's always going to be the favorite cryptid.
Okay. So I know they talked about the land between the lakes.
Mm-hmm.
Trent and me talked about that. So I have a friend that lives in Ohio, and he's really, really interested in Dogman. I'm down here with him right now. I'm in a hotel room in where the heck am I? In Oklahoma. I'm in, God, what's the name of this town? I forgot all of a sudden. Anyway, I'm down in Oklahoma at a memorial, and he wants me to ask, is there any Dogman sightings in, we're on the edge of Missouri in Oklahoma. Are there any Dogman sightings down in this part of the United States? He's really curious to know.
Yeah, they can go on the North American Dogman website, and we have, I think, is it the encounter page where they can bring up the map? Is that still on there?
It should be.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can just hit and see where the sightings are. We need to update the map and stuff, but you can find it on there. I know we have sightings in that area.
Okay, I'm in Grove, Oklahoma. I'll get it right here. Missouri's like 2 miles to the east over here, so it's not very far. Southwest Missouri is where I'm at the time being. He was curious to know about that because he's really, really interested in Dogman. He's trying to talk me into getting a tent, going out the land between the lakes, see if we can find one. So
Y'all can join us.
well, obviously, I'm glad to know that you're out there because I'd really like to look you up and give that a try because I believe it.
It's a neat place. It's definitely a neat place to be.
Okay.
There's quite a few sightings in the Ozarks area between Missouri and Arkansas. So there's quite a few sightings in that area for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I will definitely tell him that because he was really, really curious to know. He was after me all over. So, why the Dogman? Can you tell me have you ever, any of you ever ran across the Dogman? Have you ever experienced one?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Somebody started up. Tell me the story.
Actually, I was on a Bigfoot hunt, and we did a lecture at Moorhead, Kentucky. Okay. Now, Moorhead, Kentucky has a lot of spooky history. Okay. Alleged UFO crash, alien abduction, people disappearing out of thin air, just a whole lot of crazy stuff in that town. So we did a lecture on UFO. I ended up talking about Dogman. So we ended up going to Daniel Boone National Forest on a Bigfoot hunt. Okay, so the group broke up to 3 groups. They were like 3 separate trails. Okay, my group was on the middle trail. We were probably about half a mile in. Okay, and we were coming around the bend. Okay, the bend kind of went off to your right. Okay. So at the time, there's men, women, and children that's in this thing. No one was expecting to find anything. People were talking and so forth. So it's just fun to be out there at night. So we went around this bend. I had a headlamp on. A couple other people had a headlamp on. We had flashlights, and we caught eye shine. So there was a deer. So you had the trail, then you had an open area on the wood line off on the left, and then you had the wood line that was still right there on the right. But there was like a bush, probably about 6 feet high, and probably, I don't know, 7 feet long, maybe. Okay, it was a big old bush that kind of like sat there, and you couldn't go through the bush. You had to go on the trail or back into the woods. Well, the deer saw us, so the deer just kind of like did this jump where like went to jump over the bush, and at the time, this creature, we saw it. I mean, standing right there, we saw the snout, the high pointed ears, this long arm, long fingers just grabbed this deer. It's like went right into its arms, and it just went off.
Hmm.
Got the eye shine from it. We knew it was a dog man. Just everybody knew what it was just by the look. It was a werewolf right there. And yeah, and there's a lot of activity of dogman in Daniel Boone National Forest.
Wow.
So
I'm already jealous. So
yeah. So I mean, that was we didn't go any further because, like you said, we had children with us, so everybody kind of like moved back, and we kind of went back to the staging area, and we ended up, going back out later, but we couldn't find anything. But we heard this screech from the deer, this scream. So it's like this, whatever this thing did to it, it was horrified,
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow,
the
that's
kids were
great.
really scared from it, and so, like I said, yeah, it was a scary thing, man.
Wow. So everybody had their hand up. Marcus, tell me about your story.
Well, thank goodness, my best friend, ever since I started, doing this, and which I don't do it as much now. I don't go out, alone and by myself as much as I once did. But he always told me, he says, "Man, you're crazy. You're nuts." And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess so. I got to do what you got to do." But I have a couple of research areas that I go to on a fairly regular basis, and one of them is a place called Sky Lake near Belzona, Mississippi. And Sky Lake is a WMA, it's a wildlife management area, and it has a park inside of it that has a boardwalk that will take you a quarter of a mile back up into this huge, beautiful cypress swamp. I mean, you got cypress trees that are as big as a Volkswagen Beetle, at the base. They're huge. I mean, been there for hundreds or thousands of years. Well, MK turned me on to the fact that there was Bigfoot activity in this park. So over the years, I just kind of took the park under my wing, and I would go. Well, on this particular day, it was like a Sunday morning. It was like 9 o'clock in the morning, broad daylight, November, cool, clear, and crisp. And I'm kind of standing up on this this little knoll at the park, looking out across this this newly cleared out area that's kind of wide open at the edge of the swamp, coming up through and to this this old cemetery. Well, my eye caught movement, and out of the swamp comes on all fours this huge. At first off, I thought it was a bear. Your mind's going to try to identify what it knows. It's going to try to put it in a box. Well, as this thing come running out of the swamp, I'm like, that's not running like a bear. It's not loping like a bear. It doesn't look like a bear. The head was huge. It had the huge, tall, pointed ears, had the big, long, pronounced snout. This thing was canine. And the head and the back legs, it had the back legs of a canine. It didn't have, the canine legs. I mean, excuse me, the legs of a bear. Now, yes, it was covered in hair. It was jet black, but it had those bowed legs. And about halfway across this little field, there was this big, tall pile of debris where they had been pushing debris out. Once this thing got to the debris, my right eye caught movement up in the cemetery, and this female deer, this doe, comes running in front of the debris pile, and it's carrying the male. I mean, it's getting the heck out of Dodge, and it runs up into the swamp. The strange thing is, I never saw, and I should have been able to see, and it could have just been the deer distracting me, but I never saw the dog man go on up into the cemetery like it was heading. And I always tell everybody, and my point about my friend, he's like, well, you really want to see one of these things? And my answer is yes, but I have a certain criteria. Well, what's your criteria? I'm way the hell over here, and it's way the hell over there. And that's what happened here, so I got my wish. But yeah, this thing was huge, man. The back of it, I'm 5'7", and from what I could tell, the back of this thing would have come up to my upper chest. It was monstrous, and it had those tall, Batman looking ears and the big snout, and like I say, that and the legs, that's what stood out to me. So, mine was kind of, I guess you would say, kind of boring.
Oh,
but look, that's the thing about the NADP, and all these guys will tell you. And then of course Jen's got her encounter, but that's what we're here for, because a lot of people, they don't get the luxury that I got.
Okay.
A lot of times they have encounters. It's up close, it's personal, and these people are rattled to their core.
Okay.
And that's what we offer them. We offer them a place to come to where they can talk and and not get laughed at.
Correct. But it's similar to ghost hunting. Everybody thinks you're crazy until you prove it to them. So that happens as well.
Exactly.
So I heard you and Jody both mention black. Is black a pretty common color for these dog men? I mean, is there any different color?
The majority of the reports we get, they're black.
Okay.
We do get other reports where their looks like a German Shepherd, or like a gray and black, or a completely just gray in color. And you have some that actually is more reddish in color, brown in color. But like I said, the majority is just pitch black.
Okay. All right, Jen, I want to hear your story, because if I'm going to go dog man hunting, I want to know what I'm looking for. So,
Hold on. I have a question.
Okay.
How tall have the sightings that have been reported, how tall do they claim the dog man to be?
So
Go ahead.
The second one I saw was however tall your house is, like up to the gutter.
Whoa.
It was right there.
That's 8 feet and 9 feet. Yeah.
And is that upright or is that on all fours?
Oh, that's upright.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Lord have mercy.
Wow.
That's a big beast.
The one I saw was, I know, 7.5 feet, because we know that bush, because we measured that bush was exactly 6 feet. Oh. And we saw his upper body, chest all the way up to the head above that bush. So like I said, he was every bit 7.5 feet.
Well, Marcus says he's 5'7". I'm only 5'5". This thing, wow. I'm gonna have to run faster than the rest of you, apparently. So,
yeah.
So, Jen, tell us your story.
Well, so I met Jody in like 2015, 2016. I lived in Fort Wayne, Indiana at the time. And come to find out, there was a dogman sighting out on Till Road, which I lived on you could see Till Road from my apartment. I didn't see anything then, but then I moved to Cook Road, and I was taking the first encounter was when I was taking my daughter to daycare first thing in the morning, heading to work. And I look over and you know how a gorilla's butt is round. And I saw that right above the hood of a car. And I text Jody and I was like, hey, I think I just saw a dog man. And it's not far from Till Road. Like it's close enough they could travel because they travel pretty quick. So then I moved where I am now. I'm in northern Indiana, about 20 minutes from Michigan, about 30 minutes from South Bend, where Notre Dame is.
Okay.
And 2017, I took my youngest son for a walk. He was in a stroller. And you know, when you're ghost hunting, you get the heebie-jeebies and feel like something's watching you. So, of course, that kicked in and I just started taking photos. And I didn't see anything when I was taking the photos. But when I started looking through my photos, there was a juvenile sitting there. And I sent that to Jody. And he's like, look, here's the ears, the snout.
Wow.
Oh, that's a beautiful picture. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I think we have that on the website.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then it started coming over to we were living with my mom. And my son was 15, something like that. It started coming over and like knocking on his window and scratching at the windows.
Wow.
You could hear it on the roof. And across the road is when I saw the one like up to your gutters.
Wow.
And then if you go on the website, you'll see, and they did not bother me. They just sat there and observed. And if you go on the North American Dogman Project.com website, you'll see my photos from March 31st of this year.
Yeah, there's a dog man standing between like a tree that's like at a V like this.
Yep.
You know, and it's standing right there in the middle. And you see the snout, you see the high pointed ears.
Yep.
Wow. I mean, this is a really beautiful picture.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, what an encounter.
Yeah, and right below that picture, okay, I investigated 2 local police officers in the area I live that had a dogman encounter on the same road, like 2 or 3 weeks apart, give or take, on the same exact road from 2 different departments.
Wow.
Which was,
yeah.
Wow. Which was really, really wicked. And then we have the Land Between the Lakes pictures from Pat and Joe on their thermal imaging. And, you know, we were able to stabilize that film. We were able to do a lot with the picture. And it's a female dog man holding a younger dog man.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's probably the best evidence out of LBL right now.
Holy crap. Well, yeah, look that up. So here we go to Trenton, Land Between the Legs.
I have a quick question.
Okay, go ahead. No,
before I forget. So Jody, I was on a different podcast with some guys I used to work with last night. Tamala and I were. They're from here. They're from like where we live at. So they were asking, how many do dogmen own? Do they have a litter like normal dogs, or do they have 1 or 2? Or can they have twins, triplets, like 4?
I don't know. I talked to a guy that I interviewed that on his property, he had a den, okay? And he would see this thing, and he was actually going to kill it because it was taking his chickens until he saw 3 smaller ones with it. So they probably do have a litter because he said there was 3 of them. They were, you know, on 2 legs, but they were living in a den under the ground. And he said, yeah, these things, he would describe them as werewolves. But here's an interesting thing about Dogman, that we had a really good report where a guy was hunting and he heard turkeys, and he was turkey hunting, and he went out of the wood line, and there was like a little patch of open area, probably about 20 yards by 20 yards before it went like right in back into the wood line. And as soon as he got into the middle there, the turkeys stopped. So he stopped. So he's like, okay, they heard me. He said 5 dogs. And now he was an older gentleman. He was like 68 years old at the time. He said 5 dogs came running out with him, running on 2 legs. And they surrounded him. And the smaller one, he said, was a female. And she was had to been the pack leader, the alpha, because she was the most aggressive. And, he had a rifle, so he would point the rifle and they would kind of move back. So they knew, obviously, what a weapon was. But he said the males, he goes, I see their genitals. They're like human genitals. But the smaller, aggressive one was a female because he didn't see anything.
Wow.
He talked about the front paws being like human style hands. He described them, looking like a or a regular wolf, domestic wolf, and a German Shepherd. And he was at no time did he ever say werewolf or dogman because he didn't know what these things were. He kept saying they were dogs. By the way, they were, and he couldn't understand why these dogs were able to walk on 2 legs.
Oh, I see.
Why they had genitals like a human.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that was a really good dogman encounter. But we do get reports where it seems like maybe the alphas are in a pack are females.
Okay. That's interesting to know.
Yeah.
I'll try to keep that in mind. I never thought about that. Do they have pack like dogs? That's a very good question. That's a really good question. So we'll go back to Trenton and tell us your story over there because I used to live in Kentucky and I've heard about the wild man and all different stories out there. So let's hear it. Let's hear it.
My encounter actually took place at Land Between the Lakes. I was out there camping back in the fall. This was about the last week of September going into October of last year. And I was in the process of getting my place where I'm at now, right here outside of Land Between the Lakes. And while I was waiting on all that, me and my dogs, we camped at Twin Lakes, it's dispersed camping. It's not a public campground by any means. You've got a few areas you can park and have a few fire rings, and then there's a vaulted toilet at one end, and that's it. There's no public functioning water or anything like that out there. But I was there for almost 2 months. And during this last week of September going into October, I had about 5 different encounters, and they were all audible. We never saw a thing. But I had my 2 dogs with me. I've got a Great Pyrenees Anatolian Shepherd mix, which is a monster of a dog in herself, and a miniature Australian Shepherd. Now, my dogs, they bark at everything and anything that they can see, smell, hear, whatnot. Now, over the course of about 3 or 4 nights in a row, we would hear this. It sounded like a decrepit hound dog in duress, trying to howl and bark at the same time almost. And in between this barking and howling, you get a real deep guttural growl every so often. Now, my dogs would bark at this thing and bark at this thing, but once it would growl, they would hush and they would look at me like, what was that? And like I said, now this thing, you could hear it and it would not stop. The noise would not stop. It would come into earshot as far as before I could hear it anymore. But the very last night that we heard this thing, it was like at the bottom of the hill by the lake. We could it was close enough we could hear it tromping through the sticks and leaves and even splashing in the water on the edge of the lake. And it was close enough that night. And after that little 2-week encounter, that's when I contacted the NADP and got my story out there, and then we got to talking back and forth.
Wow. Those are all encounters that those are fascinating to me. I mean, so one more question. What do I need to go look for the dog man? What equipment would I need besides to change a diaper other than that? But what would I need? So
Basic, just have a camera, or a recorder. You can use your phone. Um, my thing I always tell, like my people, if you're going to go out, if you're going to go out even for one day, make sure you take, 1 or 2 days with food, water, a first aid kit. Things happen. Okay. Um, take plaster with you, a plastic bag, the water. So if you find, a track or something, you can make a casting of it. You can buy these like little glass bottles, like at the dollar store, which are really nice to collect any type of thing. You don't want to use plastic because it's petroleum and it will destroy the DNA. So just get yourself a little kit to put together to collect evidence if you're out there. Definitely whatever, like if you find a track, take lots of pictures of it. Put something next to it for size, like your keys or if you have a knife or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll put together a kit and I'll come down there to land between the lakes and start looking around.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need somebody to go with me because I ain't going by myself.
Snake boots, take those too.
Yeah.
All right. Hello, Drew. We do have some questions that had come in. Not sure if Paranormal Triage is still watching. She didn't know much about the Dogman and asked if it was similar. So hopefully, after the discussions that these guys have been talking about their encounters, that cleared it up for you. But if you do still have questions, let us know. Or is there anything that you guys want to say? It's not like a chupacabra, is it?
Yeah,
Chupacabra is completely different.
Yeah,
it's the chupacabra that's being seen in Puerto Rico is different than the blue dog that they see here in the States. I don't know if that even really qualifies to be called a chupacabra. They only found dead species of it, a few dead ones, but from what I'm gathering, the teeth do not have any type of holes where they're able to suck blood through or anything to that effect or so I don't know. I just think they found an odd species of dog or some type of odd species of coyote. And that's what they're going to claim as the chupacabra.
Okay.
I did investigate a chupacabra case here in Mississippi. It was something that MK Davis brought me in on. He initially got started on it thinking that it was a Bigfoot attack. This farmer in this little rural town, he lost all of his livestock one night. Matter of fact, he lost them twice within the space of almost a year. And his livestock, it was like sheep and goats, were violently killed. And we interviewed some of the local eyewitnesses to this thing. And at one point, I got really excited because one eyewitness told me and MK that at one point, this chupacabra stood up on its back legs and was watching a crop duster that was flying overhead. And I'm like, first thing that hit my brain was Dogman. That's Dogman. But the description did not, in no way, shape, form, or fashion. Now, it was two of them that got sighted. Now, they were very freakish looking. They weren't your typical. I mean, if you see the typical canine chupacabra from Texas, and they have migrated their way around here, to Mississippi. They just look like a poor, sad, pitiful coyote or some type of mix that's then got the mange, and you can't help but feel sorry for them. But what these people saw, it was Dogman like as far as the canineness, the head, the teeth, all that, but 24/7, pretty much on all fours. But they were violent killers, and to this day we have no explanation. But it we thought maybe Dogman for about 5 seconds, and then we had to go with what the eyewitness was saying, and it was not Dogman.
Okay.
Next question. What climate do they prefer to live in? Is there any specific climate?
No. We heck, we should have brought on our case analysis team to talk about that. No, there's really no difference with the amount of sightings that take place in the summertime, the wintertime, the fall, or the spring. Okay. There's much sightings in the United States through those 4 seasons as they are like up in northern Canada,
Okay.
where the temperature is a little bit more colder up there. Even in Alaska, throughout the 4 seasons up there, the sightings are about the same. So I don't think that really the environment has a whole lot to do with it when between hot and cold. Now, if you want to put it to the point where are they more active when it's cooler in the evening compared to when it's warmer in the afternoon and morning? Yeah, there is a difference there.
Okay.
Do you have more cases that come in from like the south or from the north, or is it pretty even amongst the regions?
Well, I'll let Jen talk about this and Marcus here. What I did was I took a lot of these sightings, okay, and I basically said, okay, where are the majority of the sightings coming from in the United States? Where's the second part? Where's the third part? Okay. So the north, okay, you're talking from Wisconsin going all the way down to Kentucky, shooting all the way up into Pennsylvania, New York, Maine, Massachusetts. Okay, the Northeast. That's the biggest region where majority of sightings are taking place. Okay, that is Indiana, Michigan. Okay. Second part is Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, those southern areas. Okay, is like the second. The third is the Four Corners area.
Oh,
Utah, New Mexico, that area. And then comes California. Okay, that is how I figured out how the sightings were taking place.
Okay.
Where the majority of them were coming from. So I would say the number one spot, like I said, is the northeastern part of the United States. From, like I said, from northern Tennessee, Michigan,
Okay.
shooting all the way up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jen,
Don't
was
forget,
it?
you
Go
have the Michigan Dogman.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
So
and
you-
Shenango Valley Werewolf and
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. You have the Wolf Pack that's in Maine. You have Dogman sightings up in the Triangle up there in New York, in New Jersey, the bear, what do they call it, the Pine Bear
Pine
area.
Barrens?
Yeah, all up through there. So there's a lot of stuff going on in that area. And that's where the majority of the sightings, like you said, when we first started, that's where we were getting everything from, was there. We very seldom got stuff from like California, the Four Corners area, even in the southern part. We're things are picking up. People are seeing these things like all over the United States.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Next question. So they don't shapeshift. They just remain dog. They just go from like all fours to upright. Correct.
Right. We really haven't had anything of a shape shifter. How our sightings come in? Okay, you have flesh and blood, supernatural, the paranormal, and then extraterrestrial. Okay, so they come in, different groups. Okay,
Okay.
so yeah, the paranormal part and the um, supernatural part is a big part of it. People see these things appear, disappear, fade, unfade, communicate through telepathy, actual verbal communication, things like
Okay.
that. So we don't discard anything coming in. Like you said, we got a lot of stuff that's extraterrestrial involved, and like I said, the flesh and blood. The most interesting thing that we ever got, and this was probably, I would say, 2018, 2019. We got a report in from 3 different people in 2 separate parts of the United States. Okay. A husband and wife was visiting a relative in a cemetery. Okay. They saw a dog-headed man. A head like a dog, wearing a cloak, a gray cloak in a cemetery. And it stopped and was looking at them. They were probably about 15 yards away. They said it was very realistic. They didn't know if it was somebody wearing a mask, and they thought it was just really weird. And, they noticed by this way this thing was walking was odd. Okay. I want to say about 8 months later, we get another report from a guy that saw 2 of them in a cemetery in a different part of the country. 2 dog-headed men wearing gray cloaks in a cemetery. And so that was kind of an odd case. So what I was thinking is, were these dogs or could these be hellhounds? Because the hellhound protects the souls in the in the cemeteries from the demons from trying to steal the souls. So are these hellhounds actually real?
Gotcha.
And then we had a really odd case here in Ohio where this dog man was digging in a grave, and it's on film. Which is really, really weird. I think that's fascinating that we get odd stuff like that, and it kind of throws the Dogman stuff off a little bit, but it's still related. But it's just it's really interesting stuff that kind of puts a chill up your spine, when you try to face what this really is.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting.
So one of the more recent reports we've had in the last couple months, this one really kind of made me go, wow. And I haven't heard back from the gal because I did reach out to her. I don't remember where she was at, and she was getting ready for work. She's getting ready to leave at like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. She went out to start her car, and under the street light was 4 or 5 of these dog men walking in a line, like side by side by side. And she looked at it, went back in her house, and kept watching out the window to see if they would walk by. And she said you could see cars stop and look at them.
Mm-hmm.
And
wow.
I was just like, wow.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, we got a meat packing plant here in Cincinnati. We had someone real early in the morning that was coming to work and saw one digging in a dumpster, in this heavy, manufacturing area, right
Wow.
there, just, ignoring the cars going by.
Wow.
And I'm like, are you sure it wasn't a dog, you know,
Mhm.
trying to get into the dumpster? And he goes, no, this thing was standing there. The dumpster was open. It was tall. And you see it pick up stuff and throw out of the dumpster. And you saw
Wow.
the tail wag like this. You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
It was a giant raccoon.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's a big old
Yeah.
raccoon.
At least, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, giant
It
raccoon.
appears that they're not scared of like humans or
No.
Yeah.
anything of the sort.
They don't fear it.
You'll
Yeah.
find that out. They're not. They're
No.
not.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, and I was thinking about this over the weekend, is that both times I have seen them, I've had my youngest son with me,
Oh,
and
okay.
and I've mentioned this to Jody too, is that they have never offered to interact with us, harm us. They just kind of stand there and watch.
Oh, like
Oh yeah.
It's
a dog,
interesting.
like a dog would, like going about its business, not paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, a dog will ignore you if it wants attention. It will come up to you.
Right.
Otherwise,
Right.
it's going to ignore you.
Very true. Wow.
But that is true though. We're seeing more and more encounters both with Dogman and Bigfoot. They're encroaching in on, you know, the populace. They're coming into suburbs. They're coming into, you know, city limits and so forth. And you know,
Okay.
like Jen and Jody you're talking about. I mean, I'm sure they would have to be, some of them anyway would have to be considered opportunistic. You know, I like going to McDonald's every once in a while. I mean, I'm not going to stay home and cook all night long. I
Gotcha.
want a quick meal too.
Mhm.
So
Gotcha.
if they can find, you know, something fast to eat, yeah, I mean, and it may be to the point to where they could give a rip less if they see you watching them dig through a dumpster. I mean, they don't have a whole lot to fear from us, you know, so they kind of got the upper hand there. So they're probably not too afraid of digging through dumpsters and whatever. And again, we get a lot of Sasquatch reports the same way.
So they
Go ahead.
very much are like dog traits, right? They're not out like attacking people or anything like that. Their characteristics are more dog-like.
We've gotten incidents where people have been attacked. You know, where family members have talked about, you know, their family member being attacked. We have autopsy reports on our website from alleged victims. Okay, and if you read the reports, you can see. I mean, in my opinion, it was like the coroner is trying to really justify what he's saying
Okay.
because he knows it's bull crap. To the
Okay.
damage that was done on these bodies. One particular, the family knows that their mother was killed by a dog man, and they're, you know, has a petition they want people to sign for the government to release the proof that it was a dog man that actually killed her mother.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're not afraid to say it. They, you know, they've been harassed, you know, by the government over this, and they don't care. They know exactly what killed their mother. And if you look at the autopsy report and read it and look at the drawings and stuff, man, no dog could have done this. No dog could have done what, you know, to this body what was done to her.
Gotcha. Well,
Crazy. So outside of them being 8 feet tall ish, like how big are, because you said going out and tracking them, like how big are the paw prints? Like, do you have any details like that?
We've got casts that we've taken. It's like on our website we have he's passed now, but I had a 155-pound German Shepherd. Okay, so I made a cast of his print compared to the cast of the Dogman prints that we found. Okay, and you can see the difference. Now, if my dog was 155 pounds and he had, a decent size, print, and then you had something that was twice the size, you're looking at 300 pounds. That's unusual for a dog. That's pretty damn unusual for a domestic wolf.
Yeah.
Okay, to be that big.
Sure.
That dog could not move. Okay, if it was that big. Okay.
Sure.
Now, here's things that people need to understand. When you have an animal that stands upright, okay, that weighs 200, 300, 400 pounds, in order to support that weight, okay, it has to have a much broader hull to support the weight. So we know with Bigfoot, okay, we know the ankle is pushed a little bit forward, so it has a much larger heel. Okay, so it's able to support that weight.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why the Bigfoot prints are, different from a human. So we have a print that we got out of Germantown. Okay, and we two of them, but one of them is like the absolute best. Okay, it looks like a bear print. Okay, it has 4 toes, a large pad, and claw marks. Okay, so I have that cast next to a 250-pound black bear that I got out of Ohio, and this thing, is twice the size of a 250-pound black bear. So I talked with the DNR, okay, about this print. I showed him, okay, and I said, "What do you think it is?" He goes, "It's a grizzly's print or a large black or brown bear." Where'd you get it? I said, Germantown, Ohio. And I showed him the pictures and everything. He says, it couldn't be. There's no way. A bear this big, if it was a bear, you're looking at 1,000 pounds. And bears are nuisance animals. Okay. They let you know they're there.
Mhm.
Okay. They'll get into your swimming pool. They'll swing on your hammock. They let you know they're there. And if we had a bear that big in Ohio, we wouldn't have known about it. Okay?
Wow.
So, we know that there's a creature in this area. So the print itself, I don't know. It was an old print. It was filled with water. Excuse me. I've got a casting of it. But, could there have been a large bear in the area? Possibility, yes.
Okay.
Could the DNR went out there and planted it? Yes, they could have, because they know we do research in that area. Okay. They've made us leave several times, researching. So
Okay.
It's a possibility.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay. Tim.
Are there any sightings ever reported out of the state of Iowa? That way I don't have to travel so far.
We do have some. Like you said, Jen, if she can look on the map.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I have a friend. Well, we became friends in Iowa. That he has had sightings there. Out, the apartment complex. There's like a big wooded area where he has had several sightings. He's got some really good recordings of vocalizations that's coming out of the wood there. Yeah.
Okay.
There's one in Lane County.
Yep.
It was the deputy sheriff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Near Cedar Lake. How do I know this?
Yeah.
Cedar Lake near the Quaker Oats plant.
Yeah. How do I know this?
You're
Because I have
psychic.
I got grandkids that live in Cedar Rapids, so I go by the Quaker Oats plant every time. Can't find one. I keep looking, but I don't see it. But I knew there.
The thing of it is, and I'm gonna tell you, it's like Bigfoot sightings. It's all accidental.
Okay.
You're not going to go out looking for it, and you're not going to find it.
Well,
Okay, they're going to be accidental sightings, meaning that it's just the sighting's going to happen when it happens, when you're doing something opposite of what you're going to be doing. And you got to understand, a lot of researchers, when they go out looking for cryptids, they're going to find cryptid evidence that's not really cryptid evidence, but they're going to think it's cryptid evidence because that's what they want to do.
I got you.
Well,
I was just hoping driving by, I'd look over and maybe my accidental time would be out there. So that hasn't happened yet. So that's what I meant by that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can we get any idea the origin or American Indian folklore of these creatures being out here at any time, say in the past?
Yeah, that's something that when you look at a lot of your Native American Indian lore, they do have what we would refer to as dogman, in their legends and lore and their speak. Same thing with Sasquatch. I mean, this goes back hundreds upon hundreds of years.
Okay.
So yes, your Native Americans do have that. And one of the first things I learned when I started getting into Bigfoot, and I always kind of joke about this, and of course I get it now, and I appreciate it now, but MK Davis kept taking me to Indian mounds. I mean, we're supposed to be looking for Bigfoot. I'm like, where are we going? What are we doing? And he's taking me to Indian mounds. And then finally one day he kind of lays it out. And there is a connection between cryptids and Indian mounds, especially Dogman and Bigfoot. A lot of your Native Americans look at Dogman as being a protector of the mounds.
Okay.
And I have a research area where there's these 3 huge Indian mounds, and I've never seen a Dogman there, but I have had something growl at me that I don't know what it was. It was broad daylight. I was flying a drone. I think whatever it was, I ticked it off. And at first off, I likened it to a possible Bigfoot because there's Bigfoot around these mounds.
Okay.
And MK and I knew that. But I had always got a feeling that, and I don't know why, but I always had something, going on in my gut, in the back of my head, that there was something weird and canine-ish about this place. And one day, like I say, I was flying this drone and I put it up and I brought it back down. I moved over a little bit and I put it back up, and I got the low warning on my controller that the battery is going dead. So I brought it down and I landed it at my feet. And I will say this: a lot of times when I go where I can legally do it, I go armed. I'm not going to go, unarmed if I can legally do it. So here I was able to do that. Well, the drone comes down, it lands. I bend over to pick it up, and I'm probably about 35 feet from this big, huge main mound, and this growl comes off of the mound, and I can feel it in my chest. And it's one of the only times I reached down and I unsnapped my holster. Gotcha. And I didn't walk up the incline to my vehicle. I backed up it.
Okay.
And I had drone in one hand and I had hand on pistol at the other.
Wow.
But, I just, something about that just felt canine. I can't prove it. It's just Marcus.
Okay.
But yes, there is a definite connection. And I'm sure Jody and Trent probably, and Jen too, probably know more about the Native American part than I do.
Oh, I'm fascinated to learn that Indian mounds have a lot to do with that, because we have them in Iowa. We have Indian mounds.
They do.
I didn't realize that was part of it.
And that's what MK was trying to teach me and tell me. He just had a funny way of doing it.
The Michigan Dogman, the very first sighting took place at a Indian mound. So yeah, and we have an area, here that has a lot of Indian mounds where sightings have been taking place.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting to learn because there are Indian mounds in Iowa, and I got a notion just to go up there now and start looking around more because they're on the Mississippi River. So does a waterway or a river or something like that have a lot to do with sightings? I mean, well, apparently not because they're out in the Four Corners, but I was curious to know if that would be part of it.
Well, the thing about animals, they're going to stay close where the food source and water source is. So yeah,
Sure.
All water sources are a good place to check.
Okay, that's a very good point. That's what I thought it would be. So that's interesting. Sorry, allergies are driving me crazy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I might actually just go with you, Tim.
Oh,
you're going to go with me? I'm intrigued. Yeah.
You're going to go with me?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm intrigued.
Wow, get in the truck. We're going. So
there's also a theory that they follow railroad tracks too.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Defiance werewolf was seen by railroad tracks. There's someone local to me that has seen them by I can't get it out. Railroad tracks.
Okay.
Here and then about 20 minutes away too.
Wow.
It's funny you say that, Jen. Here in Mississippi, I know Jody and Trent, again, Jen too, probably has heard about a place in Mississippi called Taylor, Mississippi. If you do anything Dogman in Mississippi, at some point, just like with Trent and the LBL, you're going to hear about the infamous LBL massacre. Well, in Mississippi, it's the siege of Lockett Ranch is the legend or whatever. But while I have not been able to find any evidence of an actual siege of this particular ranch, I can't comment one way or the other whether it's true or false. But near Taylor, Mississippi, right before I joined the NADP and I was digging and trying to find out about Dogman in our state, I had a guy who was a Bigfooter, and he told me, he said, don't take Taylor, Mississippi off your map. He said, I got a report up here, and get this, Jen, this 7-foot tall Dogman was seen on these abandoned railroad tracks.
Really?
So
there you go.
Why do you think the fascination with railroad tracks are? Why travel? I mean, what's the fascination?
Well, it was like the LBL here. We get a lot of reports that they travel the dry creek beds and things that the water run off from wind and things. So it's just open trail area like that.
Less people, safer traveling.
Okay.
And if there's open cars, they can hop in there.
Really?
Do you think
so? What is?
We had one report, of someone going into a open car, and there was one in there. And we also had one about a Bigfoot also. Same thing, where a train, where trains will just sit there on the track, and may sit there for a day, could sit there for a week and stuff if there's no travel going on through there. And, if doors open, they'll go in there. Mm-hmm. And we've had reports on that.
You think they're looking for food, or are we talking about a high intelligence level of being able to travel from place to place?
I think they know the thing moves, but it's also a safe haven for them too.
Okay.
Someplace to sleep.
Okay. That makes sense. So you mentioned earlier that they're starting to come in. They're starting to infiltrate into the population more. Do you think that has to do with land development and their area of being able to get food is getting smaller? Or do you think they're just getting brave and actually branching out past looking for food?
It's a combination of both. We're taking their environment, so they're moving out. And you have to look at it this way. You have an animal, that has to have X amount of calories a day to sustain itself. Okay. And I argued a lot with Bigfoot researchers about this. Okay. They think Bigfoot sleeps, all day and hunts at night, or sleeps all night and hunts all day. No. An animal has to sustain a certain amount of calories a day to survive. Okay. He's going to eat. He's going to sleep. He's going to eat. He's going to sleep. He's going to sleep for a little bit, get up and eat. Okay. It's not like you and I that has a pantry and a refrigerator full of, stuff.
Gotcha.
We can get up anytime and get what we want. It doesn't work that way. Okay. So they're going to be constantly, while they're awake, looking for food. Okay. If they have young ones, they're going to have to look for food. So whatever they're doing, they're not going to be worried about covering up their tracks. They're not going to be worried about if they break a branch.
Okay.
They're going to be looking for food because they need to sustain themselves, in order to stay strong, and especially to, keep their, young ones, alive.
Got it.
So, yeah. So yeah, it's something where, like I said, they'll get a kill, they'll eat, they'll sleep for an hour or so, get right back up and do the same thing again.
So it's about survival.
Right. So if they get a safe area where they can sleep for hours, of course they'll do it. They're in a pack. One's going to be able to stay awake while the other one's sleep, and they'll. It's like being in the military. You do swift of guard duty, and so forth. So
it's pure survival is what it's about.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, 100%.
That makes sense. I tell you what, I've learned a lot. I've learned a whole lot talking to you guys. Holy moly! I had no idea that Dogman was so intricate in Native American lore and the survival instinct and doing all this stuff. We always picture them as something that we see and we wonder why they're there, or it scares us to death, or whatever the case may be, and why they exist, so forth. So we're encroaching on their land. I mean, if they've been here for hundreds of years, then we're encroaching on their land, no, definitely. So do you think the Dogman, Europe and here, do you think it's always been something that's existed in both, or did they travel across the ice bridge like the caveman? I mean, what do you think? Any idea on that, or any thought on it?
Well, if you think about it, you had Anubis in Egypt.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you go back to the 17 and 1800s over in Europe, you had what was called the werewolf scare. A lot of people got burned at the stake and done away with because like we had the witch stuff going crazy over here. They had werewolf and vampire scares, and again, a lot of people lost their lives. And I find this interesting. I started doing some research lately, and I saw these old woodcuts and lithographs way back when I was a kid, and when I really got bit by the bug, so to speak, and started looking into this stuff, as a bored kid in school, and I got to write a book report. Well, I don't want to write a book report about, your typical stuff. I want to write a book report about something that interests me. So I'm going to the library and I'm checking out all the books about werewolves and vampires and the Bermuda Triangle and all this stuff. And in those pictures though of werewolves, this is what my mind flashed back to, and it's something that I'm incorporating into a slide presentation that I'm going to start working on. But in these old lithographs, you see these werewolves. And guess what these werewolves, 1800s, guess how they're positioned? Upright.
Yep, Dogman. Yep.
They're leaning up. There's lithographs of them leaning up against this famous one where a pack of them are all leaned up against this wall. And then when you look at other ones, they're on there, like, there's lithographs of the beast of Jevudon. It's upright, attacking people. So, coincidence? Who knows?
Maybe.
But that stuff did make the trip over here. you know, with the French and the Irish
Correct.
and all like that.
Correct.
So yes, all that gravitated here,
Correct.
and of course it started working its way in, you know, through Louisiana and the
Sure.
Lougarou and all that.
Yep.
So
Sure. I'm familiar with all those and the stories in France and all because, like you, I've been trying to look at it for a long, long time and try to understand just exactly what these people were seeing and what was happening at that time. Of course, the stories go up and down, and everybody has a theory, goes back and
Well,
forth. You know, that,
I did a
so.
lot of research on the Beast of Chevron. Okay, and from my research doing and looking at all the witness accounts, I don't think it was a werewolf. I think it was a hyena. Okay,
Oh,
and let me
okay.
explain to you why. The rich were able to have exotic animals back then. They had their own zoos. Okay,
Okay.
um, and I believe that they would let this thing go out to feed.
Oh, I see.
You know, and the best, like you said, the best description people talked about, talked about the mane on the back of the neck and so forth, the short head, the short jaw, the massive body, which was a hyena. You
Okay.
know, and I really think that's what what that is, and right now a lot of big researchers are actually believing that this thing probably was a hyena
Oh,
and
okay.
not a werewolf.
Oh,
You know,
really? I never heard that. I
yeah,
never heard that
yeah,
theory.
yeah. We have a picture on our website. There was a town in Germany in 1831. And this is when they would do the old wood carving and put the ink on it for the pictures. And it's a werewolf. Same, looks like your typical howling werewolf, but it has like human
Gotcha.
legs and feet. And it walked into a town during a festival. And they had this beautiful drawing of it. And I have one of the
Oh,
original, drawings of it that's on our website.
hmm.
So I mean, and that goes back to what I was saying, where the European werewolf is, a type 3.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, guess what I'm be doing the rest of the night on your website because now you got me just fascinated as I can be. I
yeah,
I I had no idea that all this was actually going on. I know the lore and all that stuff, but I had no
yeah.
inclination that it went this deep.
Oh
No
yeah.
way to know this.
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy. Um, so at the beginning, you mentioned that you guys were looking for members.
Hmm.
Um, if they were interested in that, speaking of, how are they going to go about getting a hold of you guys? Is that through the website or?
Mhm.
Jen.
Yeah, you can go to North American Dogman Project.com. And there's two spots on there. One's on the front page that says where you can join, and one is in the drop down where to become a member. It's a Google document, so you can
Okay.
just go in and fill that document out. And oh, hold on, my dog's barking.
Hmm.
And then Athena.
So you can just go ahead and fill it out,
Yeah.
send it in, submit it, and one of our team members will contact you, interview you, find out where your interest lies, and find
Okay.
out your location and so forth, and get you set up with the right people.
Oh,
Okay. I'll just pass along if they're in Marcus's area or Mississippi. I'd
okay.
send it to him. If they're in Indiana, I'd send it to Tamala.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
You need anybody in Iowa?
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, we got people in all majority of the states.
Oh, cool.
So yeah,
That's cool.
So, one last question. Out of all the cases that come in, I don't know how many cases you guys get, but the ones that come in and get dispersed out, um, how many of those have been like? Because I know that you guys take all of those into consideration, and I'm not saying that, but like that have like the hard evidence that you're like, yeah, that definitely is a Dogman experience, or are they all credible? Like
A lot of the reports that we get coming in are reports that someone had in the past, and then you have some that were just recent, okay?
okay,
And then you have some that actually where they took photograph evidence, okay? And we make sure, the photograph is not AI generated. We do what best we can on metadata on the photograph to make sure it is. And we take it from there. Jen, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, we get videos too. I sent you one 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
we get videos. A lot of people have very detailed encounters, and for every encounter or photo or video, I pass it along and say, hey, like yesterday, I got one for Texas. And I passed it along to Patrick, who takes care of Texas. I was like, hey, you need to reach out to this person. And they had an encounter. I think their daughter and their mom as well, all in the same area, if it's one I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, everyone that we get, we try to reach out. And sometimes we get a reply and they just want to let us know and they don't want to go any further. You can submit it anonymously. You don't have to put your name in there. I mean, and as for membership too, if we do have members that do not want their name or face out there, and that's perfectly fine. We have no issue with that. So, but me, I'm like, hello, I don't care. But yeah, we have several members because of their jobs. They
Gotcha.
I just work in the RV business, so
Okay.
That's kind of promotional there. So build me an RV that I can go investigate in.
there you go.
There you go. There you go.
Oh my gosh, I have learned so much tonight. This has been awesome. Thank you guys all so much. I know it's been a crazy couple of weeks waiting to do this and get this done, but it's been great having you guys on. Is there any last things you guys want to say before?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So April 17th and 18th, 2027, we're going to do Cryptids and Legends Con in Elkhart, Indiana. And Jody Cook himself will be there speaking.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
And,
it's going to be a good event. I'd like to see a lot of people there. It's going to be a good one.
Gotcha.
Marcus will wander up from Mississippi.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to be wandering up to Eureka Springs, Arkansas, July the 24th and 25th. Me and Patrick Bryan, we're going to be speaking Friday afternoon. So everybody come on Friday afternoon.
Okay.
We're going to be there Friday afternoon doing a presentation. We'll be there Saturday as well.
When is that, Marcus?
It's July the 24th and 25th.
Okay.
In Eureka Springs, Arkansas. ObscuraCon is the name of it.
Oh, yeah. ObscuraCon.
ObscuraCon. Okay.
Yep. So we're going to be there for that. And I think, I think every weekend for Trent is a convention. He's got something going on every weekend.
We've got a little cryptid town hall coming up next weekend on the 13th. Martin Groves and Daryl Denton's going to be speaking at Golden Pond Distillery over in around Cadiz, right outside of the Land Between the Lakes. So I'm planning on attending that and getting some info from them guys.
Cool.
Jody, are you speaking anywhere this year?
I've got an event in October, the first week of October, here in northern Ohio. God, I can't remember the name of the event. It's in Hocking Hills. And yeah, the town's kind of, they're building a statue of a Bigfoot there in the town, which is really interesting. I don't know why, because the majority of the sightings are all taking place up there are Dogman, and they're going to build a Bigfoot. So I'm like, okay, that doesn't make sense.
Wow.
Yeah, but they're holding this big event, so it's the
Okay.
first weekend of October. So
Okay.
And
Well-
I will be speaking at 2 events as well.
Okay.
One is September 26th. It's hosted by Kenton Paranormal. It's going to be down in Kentucky. And then the Underworld Culture Convention in Scranton, PA. It's a
Okay.
2-day event. It's I'll be up
Okay.
there speaking.
Okay.
And
Right.
that's September 19th and 20th.
Okay. Cool. I do want to say if I seem a little eager, then I am, because I'm fascinated by what you guys do. I truly am. And I need to go to your website. And if there's anything you can teach me or anything I can help learn from you, I would appreciate it very much, because I want to get more involved in
Well,
the
Tim, I need help. I need help down here in Mississippi. So
Well,
just
I
come
tell you-
on, brother.
I-
I need
Taylor-
all the help I can get
Taylor-
down here. I'm all by
Taylor, here I
myself.
come. Well, I tell you what, my Jeep's down in Mississippi because I ran over a curb to a ditch, so maybe I have to go get it and go see you up. So
Well,
anyway.
we'll make it work out then. We got an excuse.
yeah,
I tell you, but seriously, I am so interested in doing this and wanting to learn more about cryptids and what they are.
if there isn't anybody in your particular area, you know, you can create your own team
Okay,
and still be part of the NADP.
that might be a lot of fun, because I don't know anybody's going to go hunt cryptids but me. But anyway, I'll go look around.
I already said I would go.
I know, but
Dang.
yeah, get in the car. We'll get in the truck. Let's go cryptid hunting. I'm ready to go. But anyway, yeah.
So under Eclipse, I even have it's ghost hunting and then all the cryptid stuff we do too.
Oh, do you? Okay. Let me write that down, because I need to learn more. I want to learn more. So I want to get more involved in doing this type of thing. I really want to come down the land between the lakes and look around just for curiosity. And I'll come down to Mississippi. Believe me, I will. Guys, I swear, I'm so curious, so interested, because when I started ghost hunting 14 years ago, my thought was, is a ghost real? Well, I learned that there was. So I want to learn that cryptids are real too. I wanted some of your experiences. I really, really do, because I think it'd be fascinating. It really would. So I appreciate time. Appreciate you guys being on here, helping
Thanks
me
for having
learn.
us.
I'll try to calm down a little bit and make it easier for.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for being on the very first episode of Deep Dive Topics. It's been great. Once we get through our little list that we got going on, I'm sure we're going to have you guys back on again.
Correct.
Because I'm sure there's going to be a ton more questions at that point.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
Hopefully you guys have got out there.
I appreciate you guys so much for being on. And as far as everybody else goes, join us again next month. I ain't even going to tell you what our podcast is going to be. You're just going to have to wait to find out. So, but yeah, thank you guys so much for your time. Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been great. Thank you.